folks, it's Ping Yao here. Welcome to episode number 3 of New Falmouth. So getting this episode out a bit quicker than I have done recently. Been quite motivated actually, just working on this city the last few days. And yeah, kind of doing a lot of building, a lot of work on it. So I thought, well, I'll do a little video and see where we go with it. And pretty much got it completed in a couple of days, all in the build and the video. So yeah, just thought I'd post it now. Get it in a bit earlier than I'd usually do. So yeah, pretty motivated actually by the city at the moment. Sometimes I have these sort of days, weeks, months even, I just don't have any ideas and kind of start to grind to a halt. But recently I've been quite into certainly this city, working on it. And I think if you're kind of motivated and inspired, it's best to go with it and see if you can get the time to put aside to do some work on it. So that's what I've been doing, and I've been concentrating on initially finishing off a little bit of the industrial area here next to the river, but then considering how I'm going to approach the other side of the river, which is where the sort of centre of the city will be more. So in order to do that, what I thought I'd do is build a bridge across the river. And initially I was thinking I need to certainly get down my road network there and get my road bridge across to the other side. But when I was looking at some inspiration on Google Maps, I saw a particular bridge. It was a swing bridge, in fact, with a railway line going across it. And I had always planned to put a railway in this location, so it kind of seemed natural to simply make a swing bridge with a railway line on it. So the initial idea of a road bridge has now transformed, and today I'm going to be showing you my railway or my swing bridge design. Now this is pretty bespoke. I don't know if there is a swing bridge on the workshop. I don't think there is. So what I'm basically doing is constructing it using PO. This is a serious PO project, in fact. And it's not a workable bridge, but in the cinematics at the end, there is a little surprise halfway through those cinematics. So keep an eye out for those. But the swing bridge basically is it's a pivoting bridge, so it's centrally pivoting, and it means that the track is basically split, and you have this portion of the track which effectively swings at 90 degrees to the rest of the bridge, and it allows boats, barges, whatever, to go through the bridge, and the bridge can therefore be pretty low to the water. Because one of the aspects of certainly this area is really how you're going to get the sort of boats and everything to dock against the oil depot there, because I've built these piers and jetties and things, so obviously I need to think how I'm going to have boats dock up against those. So I was always going to need some kind of bridge that allows traffic to go through. So it's either going to be a bridge that swings up, or in this case a swing bridge that horizontally pivots. So the idea was based on a bridge I saw in Portland, which I think is in Vermont on the east coast, near Boston, just to the north of Boston. I haven't got Google Maps to hand, so I can't show you that, but anybody interested, if you look at Portland, you will see a bay in the city, quite close to the centre of the city, I think, and there's a little railway that runs across, and there's a swing bridge in the middle of that railway that crosses the bay to allow boats in. So that was really the inspiration behind this build, and also the fact I thought it looked quite cool to build a little sort of swing bridge here. So I started off working out where the track runs to and getting the track level, because the idea with these builds, certainly with PO, is you've got to get everything level, get everything straight and square. Otherwise, all of these little props and things are just going to, well, they're just not going to fit properly, and you're going to have a whole heap of problems once you get on later in the build. So that was my key. First of all, you see me setting up earlier, you see me setting up the scale ruler, getting it sort of nice and square and so forth, just making sure everything's nice and level. Then you can start adding these sort of props in. So as I say, heavily PO'd this entire build, and PO gives me the flexibility to be able to construct something this complex, because otherwise there's no way I could have even considered attempting this this build. So really just fantastic as usual. Mod PO is, and also it's a little bit easier after the update. I find it a little bit easier to use. I think some of the kind of the tools and things just seem to be a bit more streamlined, I think. And also I've been using the layers part of the mod, and the layers is really useful. Anybody that's keen on knowing a bit about that, then I could certainly give you some tips. But with this build in particular, I use the layers to, well, I'm not going to say what, because you're going to see that in the cinematics, but a layer effectively means that you can turn off portions of the bridge and activate other portions of the bridge, so you can keep parts of it invisible if you so wish, which I basically only really discovered when I was building this build. So here you can see me just adding in the main kind of swing bridge element in the middle, and this is a kind of big steel girder kind of bridge structure, which seemed to work in there quite nicely. And again, putting in a sort of platform detail. So the first thing to say is this bridge is not operational. It's not a, you know, it's not animated or anything like that. It's a fixed prop, but it gives the appearance of being a working bridge, let's just say. A single track railway line, you might notice, and that really was just because the bridge that I saw in Portland on Google Maps had a single track as well, and I just thought probably would just be a single track for something like this, and I don't think there's any harm. This is a container or cargo freight line. It's not a mainline bridge, that, you know, a main line that runs over this bridge, so it doesn't really need to be a dual track, and also just keeps it a little bit simpler for me because I don't want to overcomplicate this as much as I already am. Now there has been you'll see that I've done a bit more work on this bridge. There's a bit of a jump there, and I actually found out that a lot of the video I'd recorded had simply not been recorded, so I lost a good portion of the build, unfortunately, but it's still nevertheless hopefully interesting to see what I'm doing here, which is putting in these kind of like concrete structures just to support this side of the bridge, and I put these timber plinths in as well, which again just something very similar to the bridge I think in Portland had something like that, and they work in quite well because it's kind of like a timber and steel frame structure, this bridge, and I'd imagine it's probably quite old, maybe 1920s, 1930s, that sort of era. So yeah, a bit of history. It's not a modern structure by any means. What I'm doing here is putting in some additional little kind of details and things. I mean, a lot of this is unnecessary, but when I find that when I'm using PO, I do get a little bit too into it and end up spending a lot more time than I need to with some of these details. But it's quite good fun doing it. Yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I quite like these sort of details. Just trying to get things to look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more as if it's, you know, that these elements kind of do something, that they function. You know, they're like a kind of almost like a breakwater structure there, just supporting the railway line. What else to say about this job? Well, this is not as I say, this is not the bridge that I was planning, and I think probably the next episode will be the road bridge, which I may be gonna have it next to this bridge, although I think I'll keep a bit of a gap because I don't want to block the view of this bridge, because I was quite happy with how it looks, so I don't want to kind of destroy the view of this bridge when you see it with the city. So I might move the road bridge away from this area a little bit. And yeah, I think probably the next episode I need to start figuring out how my sort of road network is going to work, because at the moment the city is very much a self-contained kind of entity. It's not connected to any of the maps or the road on the maps. It's not connected to any freeways, and it has no one living there. So it is literally like a kind of model town at this stage, rather than a place that's actually got people living in it. So I think I probably need to think about actually connecting it to the nuts and bolts of the game itself, so that the game mechanics can start to function. But I'm a little bit wary of that, because I don't want to almost lose control of what I've got at the moment. Yeah, I think at least once I do start to engage with the game itself, then it might come to life a little bit more, the city. I think you'll start to see vehicles and things like that moving around, so that's always good. So that's probably the next episode 4, doing a bit of bridge construction and a bit of road networking, getting the city connected up. And the last part of the build here now really is just adding in the kind of the big bastule, I suppose you call it. Really, it's like the big thing that's supporting the bridge. It's like the central pivot that the bridge then pivots on. And again, this thing is just a load of props planted in. In fact, you'll see in a minute the actual pivot mechanism itself. I end up using a oil drum as the pivot mechanism, just converting that and plonking that in. You'll see the bridge also has a little cabin, like a little kind of controller's booth there on the side, which again the bridge I saw in Portland had that same detail. So I thought that looked quite a cool little feature to add in, and again just gives a little bit more detail. But yeah, there's a bit more here. I've forgotten about this. So these are kind of burnt pier columns or something, but I thought they looked really good, and I plonked those in because, again, the bridge I saw had these kind of like little wooden kind of columns in the sea there, just stopping boats from getting too close to the centre of it. And I've added a few others in just as extra detail, really. Again, they don't do anything, but it just adds to the overall kind of like ambience of the scene. Here I'm putting in some steel work just underneath the bridge. Again, this is all kind of like mock structure, really, just to give it the appearance that the bridge is a functioning thing. And I'm kind of making up a lot of this detail, I didn't really look, to be honest, on the internet at swing bridges. I did afterwards, and oddly enough, it looked pretty close to what I'd built. But when I was building it here, I didn't really have any kind of inspiration or any kind of guide. I was just sort of figuring it out on my own. But yeah, that's the main thing. As long as it looks kind of, like it's a real thing and it could work, then that's the main thing. But yeah, I like to add all these sort of little steel details and things like that. And the last bit is you're going to see in a minute is the barrel going on. There's a bit more wood here. Oh yep, and there's some, I forgot about these. These are more kind of like breakwater elements that are just going to be plonked in next to the bridge to stop any barges and boats hitting it as it goes through. I'm running out of things to say now about this job, but I'm just really enjoying the game at the moment. I'm really getting a lot of kind of satisfaction, let's say, out of it. And I guess it's probably because at the moment the game is not giving me issues. It's not glitching or crashing or lagging and slowing down and everything else, which Santa Caprizia, my previous city, was really just a complete headache at the end. So I really hope that the game or the city can carry on in this vein, so that I can actually carry on the build, because as I say, I am really really enjoying this project, particularly at this stage. So I think that's really good. You know, if you're inspired and you're enjoying it, then that's the most important thing, really. Oh yeah, life boys, or life belts, are they? Life boys? Life boys. Yeah, they're going on top of the bridge there, just in case someone falls in. You can see you've got railings on just one side because you've got the railway tracks on the other. So yeah, no need to put railings on both sides. Here's the barrel that I mentioned about, and again you'll see this just going in here underneath the on the pivot there. And this is like the last detail, in fact, and I'm going to be signing off in a minute, just to say, do hang about for the cinematics, because the bridge, you're going to really see the bridge and all the details on those, so it's well worth staying right to the end on those. And until episode 4, which hopefully I can get out in another week's time, or less than a week, fingers crossed. Until episode 4, I bid you all farewell. If you are self-isolating or in lockdown, like we are in the UK, then yeah, just stay put, wash your hands, stay safe, and I shall see you next time. Farewell, guys. Cheers for now.